At 52 years old, Jean Carlo recounts a near-death experience marked by significant events in the recovery room. However, what he didn't know was that this would only be the beginning of a journey that would profoundly change his life. Hello, I'm Marcus, and it's a pleasure to have you here at Beyond the Life We Live. I hope you feel at home and taken the lesson from the story we are about to share. By the way, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel, as this is very important to us, helping us bring more new and impactful stories to you. Jean underwent heart surgery in October 2019 to correct a severe heart arrhythmia. The surgery was planned with an ablation, a procedure considered safe and with a positive track record by the surgeon. After about 6 hours of surgery, everything seemed to have gone well, but 2 hours later, in the recovery room, Jean began to feel unwell. He felt intense chest pain, and his blood pressure began to drop. The nurse called the on-call doctor, but the surgeon had already left the facility. John's pain continued to worsen, and he even fainted for a moment, regaining consciousness shortly after. When the doctor arrived, it became evident that something was very wrong. Jean described the desperation on the doctor's faces as they examined him and ran more tests. It was then discovered that he had suffered a pericardial effusion, a condition in which the membrane around the heart results in bleeding. Not fully understanding what was happening, Jean felt unbearable pain as the doctors tried to manage the situation, performing procedures to drain the blood. In a moment of extreme despair, Jean found himself pleading with God to be taken because he couldn't bear the pain anymore. Then he passed out and found himself in a different room, very different from the operating room. That was the beginning of his near-death experience. He noticed that his body was being tended to by 2 people until a child appeared and began playing with him. Meanwhile, in this room, there was strangely no sound, and time seemed to pass slowly. After this experience, Jean woke up in the ICU without immediately remembering what had happened. Confused and frightened, with drains in his heart to control the bleeding, this awakening in the ICU was unexpected, and he was still not fully aware of the severity of his situation at that time. After spending 3 days in the ICU and being transferred to a room, Jean finally began to recall the details of his experience in the operating room and the interaction with the child while he was unconscious. However, a week later, the heart problem returned, and the doctors decided Jean needed another surgery, something that shocked him as he hadn't expected it. Despite being apprehensive, he agreed, and the procedure was performed, this time successfully. 2 days later, Jean was already able to walk in the hospital courtyard where he used to meditate. During one of these sessions, he entered a state of deep relaxation and began to visualize himself floating upward in an environment similar to the previous experience, feeling a great and inexplicable sense of peace. He wondered if he was really dead, but still in the hospital. It was then that he had the idea to pinch himself to check. Shortly after doing so, he felt himself quickly returning to his body. After another week in the hospital, Jean was finally discharged. However, even outside the hospital, he had a persistent feeling that something else had happened during his medical experience, something that wasn't being fully revealed. This feeling led him to review his medical records in search of answers, but he found no evidence. Still, the sense that something was missing persisted. Curiously, Jean began to take an interest in near-death experiences without any apparent reason, although he followed many topics on the subject, feeling a connection to the story shared, despite not fully understanding why. As his search for answers continued, Jean noticed changes in his professional and personal life. He was fired from his job at a financial institution and eventually found his way as a therapist. This process was accompanied by a spiritual awakening that encouraged him to set up his own therapy space. Shortly before beginning work as a therapist, he started having flashes of his heart surgery. What intrigued him was that he thought he had already overcome those memories. What he didn't expect was that during a meditation session, he would be suddenly flooded with vivid memories of the moment he woke up in the emergency room after his heart surgery. Specific details emerged in his mind, like the appearance of his doctor's shirt and parts of the conversations around him. Suddenly, John saw himself walking along the side of a road, immersed in a yellow fog, remembering the moment when he asked to die. He recalled feeling that, in this place where he found himself, the sensation conveyed a feeling of familiarity, as if he had been there before. At some point while he was there, a bus approached him. This bus was occupied by people, and some of them wore sad expressions. When this bus stopped next to Jean, the driver offered him a choice: to stay or to leave. He explained that this experience was different from a typical NDE, as he didn't see himself leaving his body or witnessing the physical environment around his surgery. Instead, he felt like he was in a completely different place where he himself was being treated. Although he didn't see himself directly, as the moment was very brief, he doesn't believe it was an effect of the anesthesia, as these images seem to form a meaningful sequence, ranging from the levitation, the encounter with the bus, and the return to the room. This intense experience left Jean intrigued and emotionally involved, raising deep questions about his own existence and the choices he made during that crucial moment in his life.